Hi everyone, today I'm going to do a review of Circe by Madeline Miller. This is her second book. Her first was The Song of Achilles. I recently read and reviewed that. I will link it over there if you want to check out what I thought. I liked it, didn't love it, gave it 3.5 out of 5. This book, however, I loved. Favorite book of the year so far, 5 out of 5. Highly recommend you check it out. It is amazing. It is wonderful. I read it in like 2 days, which for me is like one sitting because that's as fast as I can go. I'm going to read the first paragraph because I feel like it sums it up pretty well. In the house of Helios, god of the sun and mightiest of the Titans, a daughter is born. But Circe has neither the look nor the voice of divinity and is scorned and rejected by her kin. Her isolation leads her to discover a power forbidden to the gods, witchcraft. And then something happens, and she is exiled. She's exiled onto an island, the island of Aya. This island over here, that's how you spell it, so you can see that. She's sent to this island in exile, she can't leave, and then her story continues. So that's a synopsis of the book. Circe appears in the Odyssey by Homer. That's where I know her from. And she's on the island in that book, and Odysseus passes through the island and he meets her. So he's in this book. So are many other Greek myth gods and goddesses and other characters. I really like that, actually. There were so many characters that came into the story, so many other Greek myths that were brought into the story and connected to Circe. I didn't expect that. I thought it would just be like her story, but she's so connected, and this is really like a portrait of her life. It is sort of like a coming of age type of book a little bit. There's definitely like her youth. It starts from her childhood, goes into her youth, and then later on as well. So you do get to see a big part of her life. And so it makes sense that you get to see like the different people she meets and like the different interactions and different myths that happen alongside her life or in her life. So yeah, I really enjoyed this so much. It was great. Just wonderful. The writing was good. The descriptions were great. I really think the best part of the book, though, was Circe. She is such an interesting, flawed, come-to-life character. I feel like I know her. The end of the book, I knew what was going to happen because I was like, I know Circe. Like, I know what's going to happen. I know what she's going to do. And I love when characters come out of the book like that. The character development that happened is great. Worth it for just that. And yeah, I really enjoyed this. I feel like I can just go on and on saying positive things, but I'm just going to stop here and say that you should read this. It is wonderful if you like witches and witchcraft, if you like really strong, interesting characters, really great character development, Greek mythology. Definitely check this out. 5 out of 5. I will link it below if you're interested. And yeah, that is my review. Now, I'm going to talk about spoilers. So if you haven't read this book, click away, come back after you've read it. Don't watch the rest of the video, don't spoil it for yourself. Leave unless you've read it, because I want to talk about some things. I have notes and lots to say, and let's get started. Spoiler time. Again, don't spoil it. So, spoilers starting now. Let's start from the beginning with Prometheus. That was such an interesting encounter. I really like Prometheus as a character in Greek mythology as well, so I was interested to see him. And I don't know, it was interesting to see her give him the nectar, and I just, the whole way through the story was like, are we going to come back to that? We sort of did at the end, and he was sort of like a figure in her life of like hope and of like a different idea of what it is to be a god or a goddess. But I was thinking like that we would like come back to him and like save him or something, that she would use the spear with the tail thing on it to like do something, that she would start a war. Like, when I was getting to the end, I was like, okay, we're probably not going to start a war against the gods, and that's not really part of her story, but I was like kind of hoping that we'd come back to Prometheus somehow. Next, I want to talk about Glaucus, whose name I'm probably saying wrong. I didn't look up any pronunciations because I'm lazy. Glaucus, fish boy. First of all, he's trash. Hate him. But second of all, like, this book definitely deals with what it is to be a woman a bit, or not a bit. It's like throughout the book, it's sort of a theme of the book, is what it is to be a woman and a nymph in this world and in this story. And what happened around him was like the first instance that I sort of recognized in the book, because like he is turned into a god, and he has so much more power than her, even though she is the one who turned him into a god. Like, he's accepted, he has a place in their world, he has like authority and power, and he's listened to and respected, which are all things that she pretty much has given to him but has not received or does not get. In fact, when she like comes up and tells her father that she made Glaucus and she made Scylla the way that they are, he doesn't believe her and he punishes her, and she doesn't have the ability to have like words or to have like her voice heard. But then her brother Aetes comes, and he is completely respected and heard and believed. And that contrast for me was just like, okay. Like, I really started to see that, and I don't feel like it was obvious the way that like it was sort of talking about what it is to be a woman in the book. But it definitely is there, and I think was dealt with well and shown well. So let's talk about her parents for a sec. I have a quotation on page 35, which talks about how her mom was talking to her, and it's like, Circe is dull as a rock. Circe has less wit than bare ground. Circe's hair is matted like a dog's. If I have to hear that broken voice of hers once more, of all our children, why must it be she who is left? No one else will have her. Like, I don't think I realized until afterwards that that's like verbal abuse. And then after that, it says, if my father heard, he gave no sign. And then she cries. Like, her childhood was really terrible. You can kind of understand why she just was like, grabbing after Glaucus, or grabbing after anyone that could like be something that wasn't that. It could be something that wasn't as cruel as that, and her siblings and her like uncaring brother. Like, I don't know, her family life was just terrible, and I don't think I fully realized that until I like looked back. Like, I knew her mom didn't care about her and didn't really like her, but like, wow. Also, looking back, I found this quote, which I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize. It's on page 56. I feel like I'm writing an essay. It's not really, though. It says, I brought them to my mouth, but my courage failed. What was I truly? In the end, I could not bear to know. I didn't even realize that, like, or I didn't remember that she did that she almost took those herbs that she eventually finally takes at the end of the book when she knows who she is. And I was like, full circle. I love that. So then she goes to the island of Aya, which I loved. You know, I was like, this is going to be the moment when you like figure out things, and it was. She started to do her witchcraft. I love moments like that. I love when characters take control of their lives and better themselves. And I was thinking about witches specifically with this, and what it is to be a woman as well. I think one of the reasons, like, witches have the ability to protect themselves, and a sort of power that they wouldn't have necessarily. And I feel like that also sort of ties in to what it is to be a woman and what it is to be a nymph. Like, being a witch really changes her and gives her that control and that power, and gives her something to be proud of and something to do. And I don't know, but I also just love witchery. So then she goes to Crete to help her sister. She meets Daedalus. I really like that section of the book a lot. I feel like that really stood out to me her whole time in Crete. Because, first of all, she meets Daedalus, who's a solid character, finally. And then the Minotaur story happens, and I don't know if up until that point there had been other myths, but that's when like other Greek myths started to be like infused into the story, and like she was like involved. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, this is this myth, and these are these characters, and like this is gonna happen later on. Like, I don't think you need to have a knowledge of Greek mythology to read this, but if you do, it adds to it. And yeah, that was fun to like see that and to have other Greek myths like added on. It was fun to like see that character and to like see the beginnings of things. And then also the part with Pasiphae, I remember her name, Pasiphae, there's no R. Pasiphae, her sister. That conversation they had is one of my favorite conversations in the book, because it was just like, you know, you just got to see what they were really thinking, see what her sister was really thinking. And I feel like they sort of are opposites of each other. They both had not great upbringings. Pasiphae maybe was worse. Her upbringing might have been worse because of what was happening with her brother, but like Pasiphae, like the way that she reacted to what was happening was to be cunning and to be cruel and to I don't know, to sort of like act and do what she had to do. But on the opposite sort of spectrum, Circe endures and sort of like, I don't know, it was interesting to see how they weren't that different. Like their experiences weren't that different, and to see like their different reactions to it and to understand Pasiphae more. And I also was like, oh, I wish you had a better relationship, because you could have, even though you are opposites. I don't know, I feel like you could have like been closer. I want more sister relationships in books. I don't feel like I get that enough. I feel like this happens a lot actually, where sisters like don't tell each other what's happening, or like they don't share like their struggles with each other, or the truth of what they're going through with each other. But yeah, that was like really a really good scene and a really good moment between the two of them. Also, Pasiphae and her husband, that relationship was weird and funny. I really liked the whole like, I mean, I didn't really like, but I thought it was funny. I mean, people died. But the whole thing about how he cursed, or she cursed her husband, and so that everyone he slept with died. I mean, that's not funny, but it's sort of funny. This section also has one of my favorite lines on page 132, which is, but in a solitary life there are rare moments when another soul dips near yours, as stars once a year brush the earth. Such a constellation was he to me. I just read that and was like, oh, perfect. Like, the perfect end to that section of the book, the perfect end to a really good section of the book as well. And one of my favorite lines, so good. When her brother comes to her after Medea, is fleeing from him and passes through the island, and Circe has let Medea, his daughter, go, and he's like, I should punish you, and then she's like, no, I said, in Colchis you may work your will, but this is Aya. That would have been so much better if I could like say the name of the island like properly. But that moment I was like, yes, stand up to your brother. And then like it was just great. I love growth. I love her being able to just stand up to her siblings better and be stronger as a person. Her character development was so good. Next I want to talk about Odysseus. He was the person that I was most excited to see, because he was the character that I knew from Circe's story. But I was worried a bit that he would become her whole story. Like, the end of the book would just be, like, him leaving or something. I'm so glad that he was just a section of the book. And it was interesting as well to see him in a different manner, and to hear about Patroclus and Achilles, like, in a different manner from his perspective. That was really interesting. I really liked, like, when he talked about them, and just seeing him differently. I feel like with this book we got to see a lot of different viewpoints of people. Like Odysseus, he changes later on when we see Telemachus and Penelope, when they talk about him, and when we hear what's happened, like what he is or who he is as a character shifts for us. Circe is ever shifting, and also like the gods are shifting as well, and who they are. There's so many different perceptions and so many different like sides to people, and that is shown so well in this book. Telegonus, her son, Telegonus, I feel like that's probably right actually. Yeah, she sacrificed so much for him. Like childbirth, I was like, oh goodness me. He obviously does not want to be with you maybe, or I knew he was gonna want to leave at some point. And then the whole thing with Athena, with protecting him endlessly, with having a spell that was like connected and weighing her down. And like, just, I don't know, he was just like ungrateful. I know that he didn't know. And then she went under the water and risked her life and risked having pain forever. Like, she really was the best mom. Then we have Telemachus and Penelope. I feel like I'm saying Telemachus' name wrong. That was sort of, I was not expecting that. I was really thrown when her son was like, oh, by the way, Telemachus and Penelope are here, and they're gonna stay for a while, and I just killed Odysseus. So yeah, I was like, what is happening? Okay. And then we have Telemachus and her growing relationship that started to happen, and I was like, what is this? This is a bit weird, because you were with his father, and it wasn't that long ago, was it? And it was just like, okay, but it also was like, this is like kind of right, like their chemistry and who he is as a person is like right for you. But then I was like, okay, it's not gonna happen because he's gonna leave with Athena. And I don't know, she says somewhere in the book, like, Telemachus could have been my like lover, and Penelope could be my friend that I always wanted, and I was like, that's so weird. But then that kind of happened, and it kind of felt right at the same time. Yeah, I really like her and Telemachus together. I feel like I'm saying his name wrong. Yeah, I really liked him as a character as well. He was the best of Daedalus and Odysseus sort of put together to just suit her and fit her, and just like they were just good together. And I also really like Penelope. I've always liked Penelope. Finally, we have the end where she takes the flowers and becomes who she truly is, and I think has a vision of what's going to happen. I'm believing that it's a vision and not just her like imagining the possibilities, but like a vision, a prophecy, because that is what her life is going to be. She's going to like have a happy family, she's going to travel, she's going to just be happy and grow old and have just be with Telemachus and have Penelope as a friend and like just live happily. She deserves it. Have her son Telegonus, who she visits, who's gay. Like it just like happy times, you know. Like that's how this ends. That's how like it was a vision of the future. And yeah, I really like the end, and I love that I now know that it like very much circles back to the start of the book. And yeah, it was great. I really enjoyed reading this. Such a great book. I can't wait to reread it at some point. Those are my thoughts on Circe by Madeline Miller. I can't wait for her next book in like 5 years. What'll it be about? Athena? Maybe the underworld? That'd be cool. Medusa? Maybe. Yeah, I can't wait for her next book. If you have any thoughts, if you want to share any parts of the book that you loved, let me know about it in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.